Welcome to BitBoy Crypto, the largest cryptocurrency channel on all the interwebs. My name is TJ, and I'll be your host for today's episode of Around the Blockchain. We got a really good show lined up for you guys today. Every weekday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, we come to you live to teach you how to make money in crypto and crypto assets. We're going to be talking with some really good experts here and going over a lot of your most asked questions and the crypto trending topics of the day. We're going to be joined by Son of a Tech, Blockchain Boy, the TikTok homie without the mom here, so we're going to see what comes out when Wendy O's not in the house. Dchained joining us as well, and the one and only BitBoy Crypto bringing down the house. We've got some really good subjects we're going to talk about. We've seen a recent surge in Binance Smart Chain hacks and projects getting hacked that are on the Binance Smart Chain. We've seen futures contracts having a big play in the markets. Is this bad for crypto? Is this good in the long term for prices, or is the suppression and the manipulation going to keep us down? As well as the breaking news right before we went live, we saw Dogecoin got listed on Coinbase. What's going to happen to the price? Are we all going to the moon now? Is this going to send it over $1? What comes next for Dogecoin? We got a lot of really good stuff to talk about. So before we get into any of that, real quick, we got some people in the chat asking for us to do a market watch. But as always, you'll see the score boxes in the bottom right-hand corner of all the guests. If you like what you're hearing from any of the experts, drop a +1 in the chat. We'll know to give them a point. And of course, the links and descriptions to all these channels are down below. Go show them some of that BitSquad love. All of these guys have a lot of really good stuff that they can teach you and a lot of really good perspective on the market. So real quick before we get going, we've got Bitcoin coming in right now, right at 36,000. We've seen a couple different projects pumping today. MDEX we looked at, Theta up there as the top pumper. So real quick, we'll start with you, Blockchain Boy. I know you're a fan of Theta. What is it you're seeing right now when you're looking at the markets? Anything catching your eye?
Right now, it's been trading sideways for what feels like forever. We've been in this weird limbo. I have been watching Mina Protocol, extremely hyped project, especially on TikTok, dump from, I think, $70 to $280. That was so insane. That was insane. I think that was primarily due to Bitsy.
Wow.
But I'm looking to pick some up perhaps later this month if the price consolidates, but we're still in discovery. Of course, I'm still loading up on VeChain. And yeah, Theta's been doing me justice today. My Theta bags are happy, and can't wait for the Theta drop with my NFTs coming later this month.
Yeah, we love Theta too. Dchained, anything got your attention?
I love Woo. I'm all about liquidity providers. Of course, Rune. Can't ever get in there quick enough where they put the caps in. But yeah, I'm stoked about Ledger adding Woo as a supported coin.
And then Son of a Tech, what are you seeing price-wise?
Well, I come from mining perspective, so the biggest news today was Ethermine adding small payouts through Matic, which is Polygon, and enabling miners or smaller miners to be able to get paid out daily as opposed to having to wait for those previous minimums. So just that from a technological standpoint, I think is looking good. So I'm looking at Polygon. And then from a mining perspective, also looking at Ergo because its profitability is up.
That's really interesting. So you're saying they've got something that lets like individual miners that are maybe part of a pool get a piece of that mining reward daily instead of having to wait for the pool to get its whole block solved? Is that what you're saying?
Right. So they're getting paid out in wrapped Ethereum on the Matic network, as opposed to previous you would get paid out on the layer 1. Which obviously has higher fees on that payout method, so they have to increase the payout threshold, which makes it harder for smaller miners. So that is why it's relevant at this point.
That's interesting. It's really cool to hear from a miner and get some of that perspective on the channel. Because as we know, Ben Armstrong, he loves Bitcoin mining and crypto mining. So
love the miners.
I know you're not watching. I know you're not watching that protocol, but what's got your attention today?
The thing that's got my attention, I mean, we're certainly going to be talking about a little bit later, but Dogecoin getting listed on Coinbase, is big news for sure. The Dogecoin hype has certainly died down, and right now with that excitement coming back in, and we'll see, like I just made a TikTok, we'll see what the TikTok crowd, because guys, the TikTok crowd drives quite a bit. And so that's the Generation Z. And so right now, looking at the charts and we actually looked this morning. You know what? I remember this morning on the live stream. Do you remember when I screenshotted the Doge chart and I drew a line? I said, it looks like it could be breaking out. And I mentioned Virtual Bacon and said that yesterday. Well, what a genius does he look like today?
Yeah.
So Dogecoin up about 5% for the day so far, but as we know with these Coinbase pumps, you know, they'll get a pump leading into Coinbase Pro, and then after it's actually listed on regular Coinbase. And I think this is really big. I don't want to get too much into Dogecoin because we'll talk about it later, but, you know, I think for bringing the TikTok crowd into actual crypto away from Robinhood, you know, I think this is really big for that. And I would wonder if, you know, we think maybe we hit a floor for Bitcoin, possibly. I would wonder if this overall excitement could bring excitement back to the crypto markets and get us overall back an upswing. The news just got released an hour ago, so we don't know exactly how much excitement there is for it. But, you know, the meme coin mania was certainly something that was, you know, driving kind of a bubble inside of crypto for a while.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we were even looking at would this come back and, you know, what's kind of next for Dogecoin and some of that. But real quick, before we get into all the other details, we were talking this morning about these futures contracts, and we've got call options now looking at 100K towards I was at the end of September, I believe. And they were, we were talking about how sometimes these traders, they can make bets on these $100,000 numbers, ride it up to maybe 70, 80K, and then maybe try to sell it off before the end. So we started this discussion. I'm interested to hear from a lot of the guests we've have on today. Like, do you guys think these futures contracts and this kind of like paper money and synthetic bets on the price of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and some of these others, like these futures markets, it draws in a lot of big money and institutional players that have been doing this for a long time, but is it actually good for the long term of crypto? We'll start with you, Dchained. I want to hear your thoughts on this. Do you think this is a positive effect, or is this holding us back in the long run?
No, I think it belongs with you know, the institutions who understand sort of the sophistication that's needed for futures. If you see just sort of what the latest trend in the last few weeks, these micro Bitcoin futures, which is essentially taking down the barrier to about a 50th. I think you're now introducing something that is extremely risky for your average retail investor to ultimately put themselves at, you know, at risk of losing a hell of a lot more than what they put in. So, yeah, I would have just a bit of caution here.
Yeah, absolutely. This is definitely not for a new investor. This is definitely very sophisticated products and a lot of different kind of ways you can defend a position and build into a position, exit a position. There's a lot of factors that go into it. But Son of a Tech, do you think this will help the prices in the long term, or do you think this is, you know, something that is part of what's holding us in this pattern that we are right now? These big players are trying to accumulate, and this gives them more tools to manipulate the price. Do you think that's the case?
So I think the general consensus is that there's the manipulation issues going on. I'm not as well versed as most of y'all, so I will default to y'all's opinions and let you guys play that out. I typically lean towards the mining and that sort of thing, right? That being said, I think that as long as it adheres to the principles of crypto, like smart contracts enabled via decentralization, I don't have anything necessarily against it. But once it gets into the centralization issues and that's being manipulated, and then I think that there's a problem, right? So,
well, let me ask you this.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. If we were looking at today some miners' inflows and outflows and like when miners sell, and this is something as a specific miner I wanted to ask you, like, do you try to time the markets with your sells, or do you just sell on a schedule as soon as you get rewards, you immediately liquidate it to cover your costs, or are you trying to kind of, when prices are high, you sell more, when it's lower, you try to accumulate? Like, do you play that game, or where are you at with that?
So you typically play that game. That is like during the bear markets, when you accumulate the equipment, you mine because the difficulty is lower, right? So if the difficulty is lower, you can accumulate more coins at a lower cost, and then you can sell them off when you hit the bull run. Most of the time, though, I'm looking at the macro. So your typical cycle that starts with the halving of Bitcoin, right? And then after that, I try not to play too much in the bull market other than just liquidating to cover costs.
Okay, so you would consider now a bull market, I assume, correct?
Right, correct.
So currently you're holding as much as you can, you only liquidate when you absolutely have to?
Yeah, and I only liquidate even now when I am paying power bills or upgrading mining equipment.
Okay, so only big expenses, more or less. You're trying to hold as much as you can.
Right now.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay,
much.
well, that's consistent with what we've seen in the data and in the charts. That miners right now are accumulating more, which usually bodes well for bullish momentum to the upside. Now, real quick, blockchain boy, we were talking about the fundamentals of Bitcoin, right? And like scarcity is one of those things. When we're dealing with futures and paper contracts and synthetic wrapped Bitcoin and betting on the price of Bitcoin without actually having to hold or buy any Bitcoin, does that compromise that scarcity issue a little bit as far as the fundamentals of what makes Bitcoin valuable, in your opinion?
Listen, I don't consider that actually owning Bitcoin or crypto for that matter. It's just as bad as IOUs or paper trading, in my opinion. The real concerns I have is the volatility and the manipulation. And realistically, every time that options expire and that date rolls around, everybody on TikTok, everybody on YouTube goes, oh, the options are expiring, this and that. And I think that's really people reacting to the news that the options are expiring oftentimes has a worse impact than the options themselves. So that's just kind of my take on it. I've seen a lot of times where options are priced in. That's kind of like how I feel about it at this point. We all know they're coming. We all know it's happening. It's just a part of how crypto is naturally adopted. And unfortunately, whether we like it or not, it's going to happen and it's going to keep happening. And all we can do is adapt to it. But I mean, synthetic Bitcoins aren't Bitcoin. My Satoshis are real. And that's some fake stuff. I don't like it.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Like, that's why, the phrase is always not your keys, not your coins. So if it's somebody else, like if you're betting on an IOU, you don't actually hold it yourself. So Ben, do you think this could inflate the supply as thing goes on, and like these institutional players can feel like they have exposure to Bitcoin's volatility, but without actually having to hold any themselves?
Yeah, I do. I think there is a lot of problems with this. There's a lot of problems with taking something where the max supply is such a pivotal piece to the economics of Bitcoin, and you're kind of negating it. I think, like we were talking about earlier today on the stream, like you have two main use cases for Bitcoin in all reality. Number one, you have the use case, like Bank of America says, the use case is it goes up in value. And in that case, what difference does it make if you're buying it synthetically or if you're buying it in real life? All you're trying to do is take advantage of that price appreciation. So from that perspective, it's a very bad thing. On the other hand, the other utility for Bitcoin, of course, would be that in case of is a hedge, is a store of actual value. Now, why are you hedging? Are you hedging because like you want to keep as much money as possible? Or are you hedging because like there could be a crisis that comes up? If you own Bitcoin and you lived in Argentina or you lived in Venezuela or you lived in what is the country in Africa that it was Uganda that had the really bad hyperinflation? I can't remember exactly which country it was over there now, but
Zimbabwe.
Zimbabwe. Yes, thank you. There it was. So yeah, for Zimbabwe, if you live in one of those three countries, like you are loving the fact that you have Bitcoin. It's a true store of value. It's a true hedge against the hyperinflation you're going through. I think the question that we all have to kind of come to, and I don't know if it's really answerable at this point, but what is the scenario where the United States does go through hyperinflation? Is our economy big enough and protected enough by the rest of the world to where they need us to have a good economy? And regardless of what the money printing goes, that our economy will still remain at the top. And from everything I read, all the economists said it'll be fine. But are they, are they saying that because they're supposed to say that, or they need to say that? Or is that an honest question? I don't think or is that an honest, analysis of what could happen? And I just don't know the answer to that. So the point here being is that if you're a corporation and you are worried about inflation, you are good with adding Bitcoin to your balance sheet, putting in your treasury. I spoke to people in Texas and the ongoing shorts on treasuries. That's what BJ said. I don't know what he's referring to there. But if you're wanting to add, BJ's lines never make sense on here. Could you type out a little better, BJ, so we know what you're saying? Not now, though. But I talked to people in Texas when I was there with the reps about adding Bitcoin to the treasury for Texas, and that's something that they're open to. So if you're doing it as a true hedge, then this doesn't matter in the long run for the price of Bitcoin. But if the only value of Bitcoin actually is the appreciation of an asset, then yeah, these futures continuing to get bigger and bigger and more ways to buy Bitcoin in representative ways is a terrible thing.
Yeah, well, and I think you hit it on the head with like the time preference, or like the time horizon that you're looking at really makes a big difference. If you're looking at the next 15 years, really doesn't matter what happens in the short term. If you're looking at the next 15 months, maybe these futures play a much bigger role here. But speaking of people that maybe are talking out of both sides of their mouths, or you don't know who to trust, who's the pro and who's the expert, we've seen a lot of kind of different things going on with the Binance Smart Chain projects. We got 6 different projects now that have experienced what they're calling a hack. You know, is this really a hack? Was it a rug pull? Were these things scams from the start? We had Burger Swap, Meerkat, Pancake Bunny, Venus Protocol, Belt Finance. I mean, these names they're getting ridiculous, and it's becoming like, do you just avoid food coins? Binance Smart Chain actually came out and said, like, you know, is BSC safe? You know, so we saw a lot of this over last summer when Uniswap first came out and all kinds of things were listing, and then all of a sudden they'd rug pull. We're starting to see that here on Binance Smart Chain. So a couple different questions around that. Like, do you trust Binance Smart Chain, or do you, like, actually, Son of a Tech, I'm curious, do you do any like liquidity staking or pool funding or anything like that on BSC? No, you don't.
Not on BSC. Nope.
No.
Nope.
Have you done it on Uniswap?
It's centralized at the end. Yes, on Uniswap.
You have done it on Uniswap. Okay. And so, but you've specifically avoided BSC?
Yep, I have completely avoided it at this point, other than reviewing their pool options because they had low fees for miners, but I haven't been a fan of it. Once again, it just comes back to the issue of centralization. Being a miner, I've been doing this for a while as well, and you guys might have heard of something called NiceHash that had similar hacks and so on, and usually it's near a bull run, and then they pay back during a bear, and it's sus, and there's not much you can do when it's centralized like that.
Yeah. No, it's true. The costs of centralization can show up in very interesting ways. You know, like you said, it's interesting that they pay out in the bear market, you know, but they won't necessarily in the bull market. But go ahead.
Right. Well, one more note to that, though, because they are centralized, it should be, I guess, easy for them to manipulate that and give it back, right? I don't know exactly how all of that functions, but the arguments I've heard is that, you know, because it's centralized, the pro of centralization would be that they would be able to prevent these types of things. However, that's not how it's playing out. So then it just looks more suspicious, in my opinion.
Yeah, it does. A lot of things here are looking very questionable. The information's still coming in. You got the team saying one thing, Binance Smart Chain saying another thing. But Dchained, what's your whole take on this scenario?
Yeah, I think it was, you know, since really the emergence of BSC, it's been sort of a rush to try and catch up with Ethereum, with, you know, Solana, and ultimately you're seeing sort of the fruits of, you know, lack of due diligence, you know, all of the forking that's going on. Of course, you know, as you know, Son of Tech just mentioned, you know, the idea that, you know, it's even been questioned whether BSC is centralized or not. I think there's a consensus that it probably is. And ultimately sort of what role that they would ultimately have here to try to mitigate all of this, you know, potential loss that investors could be facing, rather than putting out a tweet asking the projects themselves to then go back to their auditors or to do risk compliance. You know, I think that there needs to be some type of accountability on the BSC side.
Yeah, it's
Otherwise,
interesting.
we're going to have another tax on Tiananmen to question their centralization.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. They're kind of playing the both sides of, like, they're trying to take the benefits of being decentralized and the benefits of being centralized, but not really doing either one justice because it's tough being in between. But Blockchain Boy, have you experienced any of this stuff? Have you bought or sold anything on PancakeSwap? Do you mess with Binance Smart Chain at all, or do you think these are actual rug pulls, or do you think they really got hacked?
So I'm on the front line of what I would call the Binance Smart Chain home front. TikTok is by far, I would say, the place that every Binance Smart Chain project is first discovered in general. Maybe some crappy subreddits, but that's about it. I'm staking about like 13 grand in cake right now in the syrup pool. I'm invested into very few Binance Smart Chain projects because of the lack of accountability that it has. So yeah, there are a lot of rug pulls, but like look at what happened with Pancake Bunny. The team handled the hack so well. Like their plan to implement a resolution is very strong. So these teams are trying. Now I'm not here to defend the Binance Smart Chain. Is it centralized? Of course it is. Is it fully decentralized? I don't think it will ever be fully decentralized, but it does have some value. And at the end of the day, people just have to know the risks. Realistically, you just have to know the risks. Binance Smart Chain, is it cheap and affordable? Yes. Is it always reliable? No, at least not yet.
Yeah, and you made a good point there, and that's something I want to be careful to point out. Like, we don't want to lump all of these projects together. Yeah, 6 of them all kind of got hit at the same time, but you got to assess each project individually and look at the team and the actions that they're taking. Hopefully, I don't know what Pancake Bunny has in the works or what their fixes are, but, you know, you can't assess all of these the same. You know, if Meerkat,
they better hop to it. You know,
they better get hopped. Yeah. So Ben,
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a bunch of rug pulls, like
there
rug
are
pulls left and right, but don't confuse the two.
And that's the point I'm trying to make. We saw a bunch of rug pulls on Uniswap. That didn't mean every new finance project that launched on there was a rug pull, and it didn't mean everything on Uniswap was garbage either. So you got to really do your own research, assess for yourself, ask a lot of questions, get in the telegrams of these communities. Like, you can learn a lot from getting in the telegrams and watching how the team members interact with their community, and you can pick up red flags pretty quick. And I would say, number one thing, trust your gut. Like, if something seems off about a project, it usually is, and the more you dig, the more things that come up questionable. But Ben, hop in on this one. What's your take on the food coins, Binance Smart Chain, and Pancake Swap? I know you're an Ether bunny.
Yeah, the Ether bunny. Well, I got one phrase that will last the rest of our days: Hakuna Matata. Hakuna Matata. God, that was a meerkat joke. If you guys missed that one,
you really forced that one in there.
I did. I was getting ready to say Hakuna Matata for the last 5 minutes.
I know you were.
But yeah, you know me. Thanks.
I could see it on your face.
Yeah, I wanted to get in. Yeah, I was. Okay, so here we were on the way back from the gym today. That's why my hair is always a mess in the 5 o'clock show. We get back from the gym.
Hey, I did the gym too.
All right.
Yeah, sweet, man. We're getting big. So anyways, we were on the way back, and there's a guy in our research group, JR, and JR is like the most degen of all degen humans when it comes to putting money in just any project. And, you know, we don't talk about the projects he puts money into on the channel, but he's on my research team, and he's aping it, all kinds of stuff. He basically made up the entire not bear market, but the crash. He made up all of his losses in the crash on one project that he put money in last night, the 75X today. What was it? What was the name of that coin? It was like Son of a Doge or something like that. It was something crazy like that. I mean, just some meme coin. And it's like, you just got to know, like, and we were trying, like, man, it would be really Ghostface. It was Ghostface. Is that it? That's what BJ's saying. So the point is, BJ runs our stream, by the way, if you guys don't know BJ.
Yeah.
The point is that there are a lot of these coins that people can make a lot of money in, but they all come at risks, and we don't have time as at BitBoy Crypto here to really be going in and DJing into all of these coins. But there is like an overall net positive from what I've seen for our research group that is throwing money in all these coins left and right. And you understand sometimes you get rug pulled. The one time I decided to go with JR, I was like, JR, like, here, take like 10 grand, put it in this coin or whatever. Like, the project was a scam and I lost all the money. So that's a perfect representation, you know, of like, look, he wins so much. And then the one time I'm like, go do this one. He's like, yeah, bro, that was a scam. You lost all your money. I was like, I trust him, you know? So I was like, okay, cool. But overall, like, you know, the people that do this to really get on the front edge of a lot of these coins, they make money, but it's so risky. If you don't know what you're doing, you will get wrecked.
Yeah, you got to calculate the risk. So, last question before we move on to the big news of the day, which is Doge on Coinbase Pro. I want to hear from you guys. Like, when Binance Smart Chain first came out, it shot up to the top real fast, and it was all the talk was, is Binance Smart Chain going to flip Ethereum? You know, it became a lot more about Binance versus Cardano versus ETH. So now that we've seen this stuff, the price did take a dip briefly, but rebounded pretty quick on BNB. So do you think this dampers the chances for Binance and Binance Smart Chain to flip one of these other more decentralized smart contract platforms in the next several months? Like, do you think now it's back to Ethereum versus Cardano versus Polkadot, or do you think Binance is still right up in that discussion? Son of a Tech, we'll start with you.
I think Binance is still in the discussion just because of how large they are and how much investment's gone into it. As far as flipping it, I couldn't tell you. I don't really watch charts enough to make that decision or make that disclaimer. I do think they can all coexist at the end of the day. So if we're talking about the value between, Ethereum, Polkadot, and Cardano, I think that they can coexist, and finance can coexist as well. And you can decide on whether you think they're centralized or not, and whether or not you want to invest with them. And I'll leave it to you all. Do your own research, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. We can have a lot of blockchains, a lot of different smart contract platforms that do coexist in the future. But Dchained, do you think we'll see centralized ones kind of surge in the short term and decentralized ones win in the long term? Or who do you think is going to win as time goes on, like a more centralized smart contract platform like BSC, or stuff like Cardano, Ethereum, Polkadot, and some of the others?
I mean, I think the short answer to that is you got to follow where the developers are going. So you look
Great
at,
point.
a platform like Solana, which is backed by, Sam Bankman-Fried and that whole crew. They're clearly making some fantastic, sort of advancements in the Solana ecosystem. I know, Ben, big fan of ADA, just put out a video on that. Obviously some smart contracts is coming to ADA over the summer, so that's going to be really exciting. I think, with BSC, this is a stage of maturation. I think we're going to start to see a shakeout of some of the looser projects, some of the projects that might not have as much quality, and you'll start to see the emergence of incubators, which started to make, an emergence over the last few months, on Polkadot with Polkastarter or DuckDAO, or any of these platforms that ultimately are funding quality projects that are actually providing some level of utility, not just a meme.
Yeah, no, that's a great
food.
point. That's a great point, and that's one of the things the Binance Smart Chain kind of had early on. They had the Binance Launchpad that Binance was working on even before they launched the Smart Chain. And like you mentioned, SolStarter, Polka Markets, a lot of these Launchpad, Occam, Card Starter now we're seeing on Cardano. A lot of these kind of incubator Launchpad projects have been, not only have those projects been killing it, but they've really been launching a lot of good ones that do really, really well. But Blockchain Boy, we'll hop with you on the smart, especially since you've been playing with Smart Chain a little bit. What's your take on a centralized smart contract platform versus decentralized?
Well, I think there's two things that I guess a platform needs to be really successful. They need, like Dchained said, developers and a good development community. I mean, the quality of a chain is only as good as the projects on that chain.
Yep.
So that's one aspect of it. And secondly, you need a good user experience, which means low fees. I mean, I've been doing Uniswap transactions for forever. Back in 2017, it was IDEX. Nobody wants to pay $300 to swap some shitcoins. That's just the reality of the situation. And that's why the projects have flocked to the Binance Smart Chain. Mm-hmm. So hopefully we do see maturity. It needs to be mature in order to be taken seriously. And we'll see that happen, I think. It's a very young in its ecosystem life. And even though I'm not a huge fan of centralized projects, BNB, the Binance Smart Chain, it's going to be around for a while.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. It's kind of like a Coinbase. They've got a huge advantage. They're the biggest exchange. They've got a big ecosystem. They got a lot of support behind it. They can launch a lot of good projects. So there are upsides to centralization when it comes to speed. Decentralization when it comes to equality over time probably does tend to win out in most scenarios. But as far as like everything you guys mentioned, user experience, all these things has a long way to go with most decentralized projects. So before we move on to Doge, did you have any other comments on that, Ben? Did you have anything you wanted to add or not?
Why would you think I didn't have anything to add?
I figured you did. That's why I didn't want to move on. I wanted to give you a chance before we moved on.
Thank you.
So you're welcome.
Yeah, well, I'll try to be brief because I had like a 5-minute speech prepared.
Oh, wow.
Here's the thing. Did you guys know, by the way, have you guys noticed that Cardano has gone above BNB as of today? It's now number 4. Tether's number 3. Binance Coin number 4. Or Cardano number 4 and Binance Coin number 5. I hadn't even noticed that Cardano had overtaken it again.
Yep.
I want to give you guys a couple numbers real quick. So Ethereum right now, the overall market cap is 43% of Bitcoin's market cap. Okay, 43%, about half, approximately half. Okay. Did you know that the Binance Coin is 18% its market cap, 18% of Ethereum's. It is so far behind right now, and this is what people don't want to talk about, is how far ahead Ethereum is than everything else. It is much closer to Bitcoin than anything else is to Ethereum. So that's frankly what's happening. What you see is all of these other projects are cycling through, getting right underneath Ethereum, and then they all fall away because Ethereum is still king. And that's the fact. Ethereum's ecosystem is very large. All of its problems and congestion problems, like we talked about earlier, they're problems of success. It's because so many people use it that we're seeing these crazy high gas fees. Does it have to be fixed? Yes, absolutely. If Binance Coin ever passes Ethereum, it is not going to be because of Binance Smart Chain. It's going to be because Binance is the largest exchange in the world, and it gets a lot of publicity, and we might see some other exchanges capitulate at some point. It's BNB's use case. Its value proposition should be looked at, like Justin O says, more as investing in stock of Binance as an exchange, not necessarily, in investing in coins or the smart chain. So that's the way I view it as well.
Yeah, great take. All right, the big story of the day and probably the last hour, Dogecoin getting listed on Coinbase Pro. We know typically when something's listed on Coinbase Pro, we see it listed on the Coinbase retail site very soon after, whether it's a week or usually within a matter of days, we see it listed on Coinbase retail. So what's in store for Dogecoin over the next few hours? We're sitting at 34 cents right now. Do we think we're going to see the prices go up? How high could it go? I'll start with you, Dchained. Does this change your opinion on Dogecoin? Are you looking to ride that wave?
I'm not looking to ride that wave. It's not something that I've looked at as really a area that I'm going to move from other investments that I have. But it's always ironic to hear sort of the crypto community talk trash about Doge and then go trade on something called Sushi Swap. It's a little bit of a hypocritical scenario.
This is
there.
crypto.
It is crypto. I love it. I've been in it. I used to have to go to a Walgreens to send over MoneyGrab to get into it in the Mt. Gox days. So yeah,
I remember those days.
Nevertheless, I'm not going to say where, but he served his time in representing New York. So anywho,
what a good guy.
Love him. So going back, so with Doge, I think it's a good thing at the end of the day. It gets people excited. It gets people who might be sitting on the sidelines and want to just try to dip their toe in the water. And anything that brings a positive light, I think is a good thing. Now, with that being said, if you look at the last month, it brought a bit of like a slot machine casino type atmosphere into crypto, where I think we needed a correction, to be honest. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm excited that, platforms such as Coinbase is doing this. And truthfully, after last month, Coinbase might need a win, which is why they might be listing Doge and expediting that on their platform. But yeah, it's not something I'm going to be actively investing in today, but I'll be monitoring it pretty closely.
Yeah, that's a good point there. Was saying you think Coinbase needs a win. We've seen Elon Musk get really involved with both Bitcoin and Dogecoin as definitely as like a PR marketing boost to his brand and to kind of be involved at the cutting edge of crypto assets, so to speak. So, Son of a Tech, do you think this is a marketing play by Coinbase trying to stay at the top of everybody's mind and stay in the spotlight, so to speak, when it comes to cryptocurrency, or do you think this is some long-term hopium for Dogecoin to be around as a viable currency in the future? Isn't it
I think hopium? Obviously hopium.
Hopium.
Yeah. Well, we figured we're talking a lot of there's a lot of bunny talk going on today.
Now, if you meant it intentionally, I think that's pretty funny, TJ. But I don't know if you did. But I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt.
Thank you. Wow, there's a first.
It is.
All right, go ahead, Son of a Tech.
Yeah, no problem. I think, yes, it's partly a marketing play. It's always going to be a portion of it's going to be that. As far as the long-term, price of Dogecoin, I don't really know where we're at as far as that goes. It already has so many issues just at the base with the distribution being in those top wallets so heavy and not distributed out evenly. And so there's that. But for me, technically, I'm already invested. It made my old Litecoin miners that were not profitable again.
Oh, interesting.
Those are back on the network. So I am in Dogecoin technically just from that aspect. I have miners now running. What I will do, though, is on news cycles like this, because we get that news cycle, we will get a bump. And that will happen at, this evening sometime or whatever. I will dump the Doge that I've mined. I'm not going to hold on to it because, like I said, there's too many issues on the base chain for me to trust it to be have any sort of longevity at this point.
Yeah, that's a good point. So for those of you that don't know, Doge was a fork of Litecoin, uses the same script and mining for it. So like he's saying, he had miners that he used to use for mining Litecoin that become inviable because the power cost is greater than what he was returning. Then when the difficulty, like something on Dogecoin drops, you can mine a lot of Doge, and then you ride that pump, sell it, and then take the profit. So
another note there, you can actually merge mine SHA-256 for Bitcoin and Litecoin, which is script. Those ASIC miners will do what's called merge mining, where basically I'm mining Litecoin and Dogecoin at the same time. So just to give you an idea, I'm able to mine both. So I am stocking up on some extra Litecoin while I'm getting the Dogecoin out of that same miner.
That's really interesting. So, Blockchain Boy, you mentioned, some of these projects like the Binance Smart Chain tokens, these meme coins, Dogecoin being really big on TikTok and kind of the new TikTok audience getting involved. So, do you think some of this hype gets with Doge going up and maybe having major corrections? Does it make like short-term investors? Does it turn them into long-term hodlers, long time? Is that good, or hodlers, as Ben would say? Is that good for crypto in the long term, or what do you think as far as exposure goes?
Fundamentally, I don't like Dogecoin, but I got to give it massive props. Just today, somebody made a 4-part series of TikToks, talking about their experience, and it's the same story I've seen hundreds of times from everybody in my community who just got in. They get in because of Dogecoin, take their profits or their losses, and go flip it into actual projects. Yeah. So that's really like what the true value of Dogecoin is, in my opinion, and why I'm okay with it being what it is. I don't mind it. Am I ever going to invest in it? No, I'm not ever going to ride that wave. But it's done a great service for us all, even if it can be incredibly annoying seeing Elon Musk, having a meltdown on Twitter. And also this Coinbase listing, I don't foresee it having a massive impact. Realistically, anybody who wanted to buy Doge bought Doge. Robinhood is like the #1 place that most people bought Doge. Robinhood is the app that everybody has. I'm not expecting a huge pump because Bitcoin is still trading sideways. If you're not already in, I don't know, maybe you'll have a good short opportunity.
Yeah, and that's a good point you brought up. I mean, back maybe 2017 and earlier, 2016, 2013, some of these previous cycles, when Coinbase was one of the few options out there for exchanges, it was almost automatic that when a new coin listed on Coinbase, we're going to see what they called the Coinbase pump. Now, like you mentioned, Doge is available on a lot of different platforms already. It's already on Robinhood and some of these. There's a lot of places you can get it. So the Coinbase pump isn't necessarily as prevalent this cycle as it has been in others, just because there's a lot more.
I would definitely disagree with that. I mean, look at Polygon.
Look at the numbers.
Look at
Cardano.
Yeah, Matic went crazy. Cardano had a gigantic pump leading into its listing, so that was a little bit different. But it still peaked over there on Coinbase.
But the day it listed, it dropped pretty hard.
Well, by the end of the day, but in the beginning, it did go up. But that was a little bit different because it was already in a gigantic pump for the weeks before that, leading up to it. So it was hard for it to sustain that. We still see projects on Coinbase get huge. Like look at was it Decentraland when it got listed? It like freaking jacked up. What was the one that got listed just a few weeks ago?
Chainlink.
A
year ago.
Well, yeah, Chainlink obviously went up, but like I think it was iExact. I think IRC got listed on Coinbase.
I'm just saying.
Here's the point. I understand what you're saying, but I would still disagree with it. Getting a listing on Coinbase is huge because in the United States, if you want to buy Dogecoin, okay, pretty much you could do Robinhood, but most of your hardcore crypto people that have, I would say more money than your Robinhood investors by a long shot, they don't want to go get a Robinhood app. Like it stands against everything we're for, like in custodianship. And I think that, yes, a lot of the new money is coming in there, but for your older crypto money, the one invest in Doge, if you're in the US, pretty much your only option is Binance US. And guess what? Binance US is, I'm just going to go and say it, like it's pretty much terrible. Like I abhor having to, why we don't have more VeChain right now? Because I abhor the process of having to send money over to Binance and then swap it to dollars and then swap it back to crypto. And plus, it takes so many people weeks and months sometimes to get verified on Binance US. So I would say that that's not necessarily true. There were a lot of times when I wanted to make like some quick Dogecoin swaps based on those pumps, but I couldn't do it because it's so annoying to have to go to Binance US and do it. So I think this will add more liquidity, and that's what we see with these projects when they're on Coinbase. It's not necessarily the listing per se, but it's the fact that now they've got access to a lot more liquidity. So when the prices do run, you can see the prices go up further.
Yeah. Good point. And then we got a question in the chat from Peter B. He's asking, why do you guys think they're listing Doge? And you actually just mentioned Dchained is another one that we would like to see Coinbase list. I know Blockchain Boy is a fan as well. Like, why do you think they're listing Dogecoin instead of a real viable product that's really professional like Dchained? And what's your take on that, Ben?
Well, I mean, it's not as simple as what do we want to list. I mean, there's regulatory requirements that these places have to go through, and for whatever reason, Dchained, the same way Cardano did for years, it just keeps bumping up into those requirements, and they're not able to list it. Now, I don't know what the secret sauce is. Binance US isn't even open in Texas, and I actually reached out to Binance and I said, hey, these Texas representatives are interested in trying to work on getting that, and they're like, no, we got it. That's what they literally told me. They're like, no, we got it, don't worry about it. Like, you know, the way that these laws work in America are so crazy, and I think sometimes it might just be, you know, the willingness of maybe the Dchained team is not like super willing to work with Coinbase. I don't know that for sure, but you know, the projects themselves have a role to play in all this as well. So when it comes to Dogecoin, it's an easy, simple listing. People in the U.S. love Dogecoin, and the fact is, like, Dogecoin is not Shiba Inu. Okay, Dogecoin is not Moon's, what is it called? SafeMoon. Okay, Dogecoin is not a scam. Okay, Dogecoin is one of the oldest cryptos that has been around. It's been one of the most consistent cryptos since it came around, I believe in 2015, maybe it was 2014. I can't remember exactly the year that it launched. But it's, even though there hasn't been a lot of development, like, it's got the same thing with Ethereum Classic. Like, there's not development, but it's been around. But Dogecoin actually does have some use case we talked about a lot. It's basically kind of a liquidity provider for big Bitcoin traders. To like, if you go look at the order books per Satoshi for Dogecoin compared to any other coin in the top 20, you'll see there's massive moves when it moves one Satoshi. It's the cheapest coin in the top 15, I guess, depending on wherever Dchained is. Dchained's actually cheaper per coin. So that provides a lot of liquidity. So I want to be clear here. Like, I don't put Dogecoin in the same category as these other meme coins and stuff like that. But I think it's, you know, regulatory is probably one of the biggest reasons that these coins get left off here. And, you know, Coinbase is in it. The Coinbase has had a flair for, like, choosing more projects that do have, like, actual use as compared to, like, just listing stuff to list it. But I think that, you know, I don't know, maybe they're expecting Elon to tweet or something. He hadn't tweeted yet.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what we were mentioning earlier. Like, could this potentially be a marketing thing? But Son of a Tech, I wanted to ask you. Ben mentioned potentially maybe this is the Dchained team not working well with the Coinbase team. Could it be the inverse? Could it be that Coinbase is leaning towards U.S.-based projects, or maybe just not projects that are from specific other regions because of a political reason? Or do you think it's just purely just like tech? They can't get the requirements met from Dchained, like, because I can't imagine it's a tech thing, in my opinion.
I think it's pretty simple. The people that handle the regulations and the decision making around there probably watch a lot of MSNBC, and Dogecoin's in there a lot, right? I mean, at the end of the day, like, if that name's in your head and you're, you know, regulating stuff or whatever and determining the requirements, it's going to be a lot easier for something you've heard of. Another point to that is that they also were already on, like, Robinhood, which I would assume at this point means that they've gone through, or that it's gone through kind of these regulations already, making it easier for Coinbase to go ahead and say, okay, Dogecoin's already here. We only have to take one more step. We don't have to go through all of this other stuff that we have to with any other cryptocurrency like Dchained or something, right? The other thing is they are on crypto.com. I just wanted to point that out, which you can use in the US on the phone app. And I know a lot more people have started using that as well. So the pump might not be as big from the Coinbase listing just because that is popular here in the US and has been used more frequently lately.
Yeah.
No, that's I do want to be clear here. Like, I don't think Dogecoin's going to $1 based on this news or anything. I just think this can get it going back in the right direction. And we'll see what the sentiment is. And I also, like, I'm not saying Dchained's not working with Coinbase. I'm just, my point was, like, we don't know what's happening on the back end. I have no new, like, I love Dchained, like, it's one of my favorite projects, but I just saying, like, there's got to be something that we don't know. There's got to be a little more to the story on.
There's got to be a reason, because it's not obvious from the outside looking in. Like, dang, well, you know what? That's a bummer. Now we got Ben with the most points, so you're going to be our winner today. So
I won my own show.
You won our own show.
I've won once before.
There you go. So we'll give you 30 seconds as if you need something to say to the audience. You've never had time. Give us 30 seconds of the parting thought.
Yeah, so the parting thought for today would be that, I don't know, could we see Dogecoin get the market heading back in the right direction? It's hard to say for sure, but we've been trading sideways now for several days, and it is a little concerning when you guys see we're not getting the momentum, we're not getting the above levels of support that or above levels of resistance that we need to get to. So just be careful out there. You know, don't go all in on anything. Make sure you guys are hedging your bets and making smart trades. And as always, appreciate everybody coming on the show. We think this is a great show, and it's made great by the community, the BitSquad, and also by the guests. So phenomenal job today.
Yeah, really great show. We really want to
make sure to subscribe to their channels.
Yeah, make sure to subscribe to the channel. It's in the description below. Thank you for all the guests that joined us today. We had a really good time. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. live to go again. And I'm sure as soon as I hit end the stream here, I'll remember that question. It was a really good one, but I guess we'll pick it up tomorrow. That's all we got for today. We're out.
Bye, everybody.